In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the more merciful. I am Muhammad Asif Ch. Today, I was reading an article in Business Recorder that was very important for the tax policy for students and the students who are preparing for CSS, PMS, chartered accountants, tax professionals, taxmen and the tax collectors. It is very important topic, so I selected for today's lecture. The heading of this was the Pakistan's new tax reform agenda 2026, because reforms is the ongoing process. When you are making anything, any organization, any process, if it remain ongoing, then it gives a good result. But if we stop it on a specific time, then you will not go with the growth of the world, then you cannot take the proper results. So this agenda includes tax collection, which is the major problem in these days for Pakistan. There is a lot of pressure and we cannot collect our taxes as per target and as per the requirement of the government expenses. Therefore, we have to take the levies, impose the levies on the taxpayers, which create instability in the country and the prices of the goods rises and inflation increases. Second one is the digitalization. As world is growing and going on the digitalizations, and we as a collecting agency come on automation. Therefore, the digitalization of everything is very necessary to fulfill the requirement of the target of collecting authorities. And the economic stability. As I already explained many times, the taxation and economic growth are vice versa. If taxation will increase, rate of taxes and taxes increase, the growth will reduce. When the taxes decreases, the growth will increase. So it is the vice versa. But when there will be a economic stability and every sector will be performing good, our industry will be going on concerns, our every sector of Pakistan will performing good, then tax collection will not be a problem. So the stability is very necessary for the economy. Now I introduce which topic will be discussed in today's lectures, that are the Pakistan's fiscal challenges and revenue pressure. As already I explained that the revenue pressure is the problem for collecting agencies and the Ministry of Finance, that they have to collect whichever we require to expense for the period. So the fiscal challenges and revenue pressure is the major problem, and need for the sustainable tax reforms. As most of the time I told you that the policy maker mostly go to the low hanging fruit. They try their best to make a policy, short term policy, that we can collect a lot of money by going to a low hanging fruit. So as I requested to the policy makers, most of the time I requested that there should be a sustainable tax reforms, that should be a long term plan, and it should sustain, not for a short term purposes. And the importance of transparency and taxpayer trust. The taxpayer trust has been shaken many times. When a taxpayer feel that I am paying a lot of taxes and I cannot getting any stability, law and order situations, and different problems which should be fulfilled for me. There is a inflation, lot of inflation, there is a short of energy, government not saving me in response of paying the taxes. So they feels that whichever I pay, it goes in the form of corruption, etc. So the trust of the taxpayer has been shaken, and there is a problem of transparency in our country, everybody knows. And the role of digitalization in the tax administration, as the tax administration goes on automation, if there is everything on automation, then if we not go on the digitalization, then there is nothing benefit of the automation as a whole. It will give some benefits, but not all which we required if the total economy will not go on the digitalization. And what was its article's background was that there was a workshop which is arranged by Pakistan Tax Bar Association's Academy of Taxation and the Karachi Tax Bar Association, and focus on Pakistan's evolving tax landscape, because it is the desire of every Pakistani, including the tax bar members and the tax officials, tax officers, policy makers, that economy should evolve and we should have a good landscape for the taxation, where they discuss the tax reforms, digitalization and compliance challenges which the authorities are feeling, and problems are arising. So the government's tax vision, what is the government's tax vision? That is boost tax collection. Main concern for the government is that they have a pressure on tax collection. So the main concern is to boost up the tax collection through the sustainable reform, that it should sustain for a long time. It should not be for short period. And second one is to ensure the fairness, equity and inclusivity, that every person have a same scenario for everyone. There should given an opportunity, proper opportunity. There should not be a likelihood, and everybody should take a equal benefit when they are paying the taxes. And improve the taxpayer facilitation and governance. If we did not facilitate the taxpayer, then taxpayer or the investors are like the birds, wherever they get food they fly there. So investors are also like the birds, they will fly to the countries where are the tax havens, or where they get the facilitations. So to retain our own investors and for attracting the investors from outside the Pakistan, we should provide them facilitations, and the governance should be so attractive that the businessman feel satisfied while doing a business in Pakistan, and he should not have any blames or any problems in while doing their business, for law and order situations, for infrastructure, whatsoever they have the requirement of the business, that should be fulfilled, and we should facilitate them. And strengthen the economic stability. If there should be the economic stability in Pakistan, then more and more investors will come to the Pakistan, and our investor will not fly to other countries. So the economic stability should be strengthened. What is the Independent Tax Policy Office? As one day I was explaining that, because the collecting agency and policy are on same thing. One department is handling both the tax policy and collecting. When the collecting agency making a policy, they will make policy only which is facilitation for the more collection. So as per my point of view, which I most of the time repeated, that policy should be a separated and collecting agency should be a separated. I think maybe my voice is heard by the policy makers, so they are doing work on that, that policy should be under the Ministry of Finance and policy maker should be separated and the collecting agency should be separated. So it will be designed for the improvement of transparency. Transparency will be increased because policy makers are the different people than who are the collecting, and separate policy from the administration is very necessary. Improve the efficiency and policy consistency, and that will improve the efficiency of the collecting agency, that will collect more taxes and we can fulfill our expenses by that taxes, and the policy will be consistent, it will not be broken in between them, they will be long term and sustainable. So encourage the stakeholders participation. Whenever the policy should be made, the main stakeholders, that are the businessmen who are paying more and more taxes, they should be because they are the main stakeholder, they should be encouraged to participate in policy, and if they make their own policies, then they will be bound to fulfill these policies, and it will be beneficial for the collecting agencies. Now if we talk about the Pakistan's economic indicators, the GDP growth approximately 3.8% during the half of financial year 2026, which is very low. The growth should be increased, and it is from 2 to 3.8%, it is some increasing, but it should be increased more. And improving the primary surplus, as most of our neighboring countries and the opposition was claiming that Pakistan is going to be default, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from default, and no, surplus is improving. It's better that we are saved from the bankruptcy. Now fiscal consolidation, improving the sovereign credibility, that increase and we save from the bankruptcy, and investors' confidence gradually strengthening, and it is the requirement of the time that the investors' confidence should be so increased that not only our investor retain in our country, but the investors from overseas should come to the Pakistan. And what is the digitalization and digital Pakistan and tax reforms? As nowadays there are a lot of pressure on the taxpayers to issue a e-invoice. You should integrate with the Federal Board of Revenue, and your integration, when you issue your invoice to the taxpayer, first of all it should report it to the Federal Board of Revenue, then your buyer. So it is expanding, and government and FBR collecting authorities trying their best to come on the e-invoice system. And track and trace implementation was a very project of the Federal Board of Revenue that is going on. Some industries like big industries of cement industries, sugar industry, fertilizer industry, but their results is not very encouraging. But if we focus on this system properly and it sustainable system, so the result may be good. And automation of the compliance system, as we are on the automation, so the total compliance system should be automated, so that reporting will be easy and collection will improve the audit trail and transparency, as the audit is a threat on the taxpayer, that they should their system should be transparent. So whenever the auditors come, I should not have any discrepancies. So the threat of audit should retain for the taxpayers. Now, if Pakistan's economic indicators are, and now the national tariff policy of 2025 and 30 enhance the industrial competitiveness. So the industry should compete in growth, not for closing the industries. So the industries should compete in growth. Which sector is making more growth and which is low, they should compete in themselves and boost the export and trade integration. When the exports will be boosted, export will be increased, more and more revenue come to our country, and we will be strong and sustainable, and that all the trade should be integrated, that which can be reported to the Federal Board of Revenue. Reduce the distortions in the tariff structure, because there is a lot of tariff distortions due to which we cannot export properly. That should be reduces, and we can export as much as possible and support a long-term economic growth. So economic growth should be supported for a long term, not only a short term, and so our country remain sustainable. If we talk about the tax base broadening, then as our economy is the undocumented up to 70%, so that economy should be documented. If we document our economy, then the base of tax will be broadened, and documentation of the informal economy, retail sector should be integrated. So every person who is consuming anything, that will be reported, that how much consumption is going on, and the manufacturer will report the same figure on which they have collected the tax on the third schedule items especially. So then it is very necessary that retail sector should be integrated. Technology driven compliance monitoring very necessary, that how the manufacturing and what quantity they are manufacturing and what they are paying the taxes on which quantity, that should be very transparent. It should not be happen that they are producing 100 million goods but report only 50 million goods and take the tax of remaining in his pocket. That should be avoided. And reduction in tax evasion, so the tax evasion will be reduced by the technology driven compliance and monitoring. Now, which is the challenging in tax reforms are the resistance to documentation. Whenever the department or the government try their best to document the economy of especially retailers and other trade bodies, they show a resistance to that bodies to avoid the documentation, and political and administrative pressures come on the government that they increase the instability and the peoples go on strikes. Therefore, they cannot document economy properly. Trust deficit between the taxpayer and authority is a very big problem. There is a lot of trust deficit, that taxpayer feel that if I pay taxes, that tax not be go for a productive work, that will go to the authorities pocket. And one thing more, that taxpayer want to give the bribe instead of taxes, because he feel that if I pay taxes this year, then on the next year I have to pay. But if you pay bribe this year, then he will come next year to take bribe from you. So pay taxes, it will go to the government's pocket, not any personal pocket. And need for consistent policies, as I already raised my voice regarding the policies, that it should be long-term policy and it should remain sustainable. It should not be a short-term and low-hanging fruits policy. Now, as per my analysis, I think that can reforms reduce burden on the salaried class, that salaried class is in a lot of burden of taxation, which are paying taxes more than 3 or 4 sectors of Pakistan, which is very rich sector, but their tax collection is below than the salaried person, and will digitalize to improve the transparency. If all the retail sectors, manufacturing sector will be digitalized, then there will be a transparency, and the fear of tax evasion will be reduced, and collection will be increases. Can undocumented sector be taxed effectively? If the documented sector will be documented, then the effective collection will be increased. And balanced reforms are essential for sustainable growth. Reforms for every person got equal benefits and equal right paid taxes. Who is wealthy peoples, they should every sector should pay properly balanced tax. Not one sector should be so much taxed and other will avoid to pay the taxes. So I will conclude my lecture with these comments that Pakistan's economic stability depend upon the fair taxation. Please, everybody who is even a collector of taxation, who is a taxpayer, who is the policy maker, please take the fairness in all the system, so that nobody can lose their trust that my tax is not going to proper place. So the fairness is very necessary. And digital reform can improve governance. As everything will be digitalized, then the governance will improve with the passage of time, inshallah. And transparency and taxpayers' trusts are very critical. When the taxpayer feel that their taxes are going on the proper place, then they can easily pay the taxes. They have no problem. If they can pay a bribe, why he cannot pay a tax for his motherland, for his own Pakistan? And sustainable reforms are necessary for long-term prosperity. And first, the trust of the taxpayer will be built, and when Pakistan will retain, Pakistan will remain, we all will be there. Taxpayer will take a growth, tax collector will enjoy a Pakistan. So please everybody, be fair and think about your motherland. Don't sell it, and don't show your corruption with the Pakistan. Be honest. Every person should be honest, why he is a taxpayer or he is a tax collector. I think this lecture will be very beneficial for the students, for the tax practitioners, for tax collecting agencies, for the competitive examiner students. All it will be beneficial. And if you want that my voice should reach to the policy makers, then kindly like, share and subscribe, so the policy maker can make a policy according to these discussions. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.